Steve Austin, Astronaut, a man barely alive.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first Bionic Man better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster.
Hello and welcome to this retrospective look back at the $6 Million Man, or just the Bionic Man as we used to refer to it in my childhood. I'm RetroSteve UK, and in this video we're going to be looking at the show itself, including a quick synopsis of the pilot episode and the first proper episode of Season 1. We'll also be looking at some Bionic Man toys in the Argos catalogue, finding out how we can watch it today, and sharing a few personal memories with your featured comments. The $6 Million Man aired on TV between 1973 and 1978, with a nice round 100 episodes spread over 5 seasons. The hero of the show, the Bionic Man, Steve Austin, is an astronaut and test pilot for NASA who receives bionic implants at a cost of $6 million, hence the show's title, after a malfunctioning prototype aircraft crashes, leaving him with life-changing injuries. The implants give him superhuman speed, strength and vision, which enable him to embark upon special missions for a secret government agency, and his superhuman abilities are put to use for the good of humankind. My own memories of this show nearly 50 years later are vague to say the least, but I have fleeting memories of superhuman feats being brought to life with a mixture of dramatically slowed down footage, sped up running sequences and sci-fi sound effects that made the Bionic Man look and sound believably superhuman. Primitive effects by today's standards, but it was enough to make a 6-year-old me run around the house trying to make those bionic sounds with my mouth as I pretended to be bionically enhanced, just like the $6 Million Man. I was originally planning to do a fully detailed recap of the pilot episode, which I never saw originally back in the 70s. However, having recently sat through this 1 hour and 10-minute origin story, I can honestly say that I found it a little bit of a slog, as it drags out a story that could have been told in a much shorter episode. There's a lot of what I'd describe as padding, with segments that show not a lot happening and unnecessary dialogue that doesn't really serve to advance the story in any meaningful way. This is my opinion, however, so you're welcome to disagree in the comments, but for the sake of sanity, I'll try to pack down that 1 hour and 10-minute episode now into a quick 2 to 3 minute segment. The pilot episode, which was simply called Cyborg, introduces Steve Austin as a former astronaut with a loose cannon attitude as he prepares for a test flight. During the flight, his control systems malfunction and Steve plummets to the ground. The crash leaves him with life-changing injuries. He loses both legs, his right arm and one of his eyes. After the accident, he is selected as a candidate for a top-secret government project, planning to experiment with prototype bionic implants. During his recovery, he struggles with the idea of being experimented on, but with the help of his doctor, Rudy Wells, and his nurse, Jean Manners, he reluctantly comes to terms with the procedure and goes ahead with the surgery. A period of recovery follows, involving Steve being trained to walk again, with the ongoing help of his doctor and nurse, and becoming accustomed to his new body parts until eventually he masters the use of his brand new limbs. As he becomes increasingly proficient with his bionic implants, he and his nurse Jean become close and develop a romance, and this further helps him in coming to terms with his new life and the loss of his limbs. We get to see the first use of his bionic arm while he and Jean are having a romantic picnic, as a car crashes nearby and he rescues a young boy from the wreck before it explodes. He uses his enhanced strength to bend and smash parts of the car, enabling the rescue. After the rescue, the boy's mother notices a piece of damaged skin on Steve's arm and sees the electronic inner workings of his bionics. This freaks her out, and Steve is left shaken by the prospect of not being accepted as a normal man. In this mental state, he initially refuses to accept his first mission, much to the displeasure of Oliver Spencer, who represents the powers that be who paid the $6 million for his surgery. After a lengthy conversation, however, involving a bit of guilt-tripping and an explanation of the details of the mission, he reluctantly agrees and is shipped out by aeroplane, parachuting down into Israeli territory to rescue an important dignitary from a terrorist camp. He's dropped 30 miles or so from the camp and runs at super speed to get there. He gains access by knocking out a sleeping guard and stealing his headscarf and gun. He makes his way to the holding cell but finds out from the one remaining hostage that the dignitary has already been killed. While distracted by this revelation, Steve is surrounded and captured by armed enemy soldiers. It turns out that this mission was a test to make or break him, and Oliver Spencer, who sent him out there, reveals to Dr. Wells that he wasn't sure if Steve would return alive, as he's not exactly pleased with Steve's attitude and emotional state. Back at the camp, Steve is chained up alongside the other hostage. The enemy soldiers are obviously not aware of his super strength, so he easily breaks the chains that they used to restrain him, and he escapes the holding cell with his fellow captive, kicking open the metal door and smashing the stone door frame with an explosive crash. In the confusion, the soldiers scramble to respond, but Steve provides a distraction with hand grenades as his new friend makes his way to a nearby plane to start up the engines. Steve makes it to the plane but takes a flesh wound from enemy gunfire in the process. They do, however, manage to escape in the plane, and Steve makes it back home, where he's nursed back to health by Nurse Jean and the medical team. In this final sequence, he explains to Jean that she was the reason he wanted to make it back alive. He also has some choice words to say to Oliver Spencer, who responds with amusement. Steve winks at him, so it seems that the two may well continue from here on with a love-hate push-pull relationship, and this sets up a comfortable premise that nicely leads us into the possibilities of Season 1. This pilot episode ends here with Steve being put into electro-sleep to aid his recovery. Just a quick recap now of the first episode of Season 1, which continues the story and showcases some of Steve Austin's new bionic abilities, revealing that as well as bionic speed and strength, his bionic eye also gives him the ability to see in infrared and with enhanced optical zoom. The episode is called Population Zero and involves a small town where everyone has mysteriously fallen unconscious. Steve goes in as a government agent to help solve the mystery, which turns out to have been caused by the actions of a disgruntled ex-colleague of Oscar, whose ultrasonic weapon project was cancelled in favour of Oscar's bionics program. He uses this weapon to knock out the townsfolk as a warning, and threatens to kill everyone on a military base, demanding a $10 million ransom. Of course, his efforts are eventually foiled by Steve Austin's bionic interfering, and the danger is eliminated. During this episode, we see Steve use his abilities to bend a metal rod in his workshop, leap across a room to disable a gunman, break a solid gas pipe to create a blowtorch to help him escape a locked freezer, push open the heavy metal door of the aforementioned freezer, pull a metal fence pole out of the ground, complete with concrete base still attached, and throw the pole like a javelin at the bad guy's armoured van, causing it to explode. He also seems to have ditched his romance with Nurse Jean too, as in this episode he gets involved with the lady doctor who works for the government. If you want to know what happens in the other 99 episodes over the 5 seasons of The $6 Million Man, you can read all about each one on the IMDB website, and I've popped a link to that specific page in the video description. I do want to briefly mention the $6 Million Man toys that were available at the time, although this video isn't predominantly about that, so I'll just share a couple of examples, just to jog a few memories. This is a page from the winter 1976 Argos catalogue from Retromash.com, and it features the Steve Austin action doll with a bionic arm that has peel-back skin to reveal removable bionic modules, and a bionic eye that you could look through yourself from the back of his head and worked as a rudimentary telescope. The accompanying toy is the rocket-shaped bionic transporter and repair station, which opens out into a complete operating theatre with revitalisation equipment for Steve Austin's bionic systems. Both of these items were manufactured by the Dennis Fisher Toy Company. If you remember these toys or any other Bionic Man toys or merchandise, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Moving to today, and if you're looking for ways to re-watch Steve Austin's Bionic adventures, you're currently in luck, if currently as early 2025 that is, as the British Freeview TV channel Legend is showing reruns of The $6 Million Man. All the details for that are on their website, which is linked in the description. As for streaming, I couldn't find any services offering the TV show right now, but it might be worth keeping an eye on Watch Free UK, as they are streaming a lot of shows that appear on Legend, and the service is advertised on the Legend website, so you never know what might show up there. Beyond that, your best bet would be to source DVDs and maybe even VHS tapes if you have the right gear. By digging around on websites like Music Magpie and eBay, you can find some hidden treasure, although the prices do range from the sublime to the ridiculous, so you'll need to dig around to find the best bargains. As always, I wanted to know what you lot thought, so I reached out on social media for your comments to share in the video, and here's what some of you had to say. From the community post section of my YouTube channel, Mark Rowley remembers having the action figure as a kid. The lower arm had a flap you could lift up to see the bionics, and there was an eye you could look through as well. The toy was cool, but he never really did much with it. Mark reckons it must have been a popular toy and it was his mum that decided on the purchase, as he never watched the TV show. And continuing that trend, she also bought him a Cyborg or Cylon action figure from Battlestar Galactica, which he also never watched. Donna Evans' brother had the Steve Austin action figure, and she still has the Bionic Woman figure, complete with all the bag contents, and both of them avidly watched both shows when they were on TV back in the day. Jace Evo X had one of the toys, a rocket-type capsule that opened up into a repair capsule for the Steve Austin action figure. The thing Jace remembers the most is the eye you could look through on the action figure, and his mum used to have a lot of his old toys kept boxed up, so he's now planning to go and see if she still has them, since these memories have been brought back. Bretsky, who happens to be the same age as me, doesn't really remember the TV show too well. He reckons around the time the reruns were showing, his dad, who had control of the telly, didn't fancy watching them a second time. Bretsky did love watching The Fall Guy though, which also starred Lee Majors, who played the Bionic Man. He remembers desperately wanting a gold and brown pickup truck when he grew up, just like Colt Seavers from The Fall Guy, and apparently he can't have grown up yet as he still doesn't have that truck yet. And finally, Bren Probert honestly can't remember watching this one, but was definitely aware of it, perhaps because the title of the show was adopted in everyday speech and became part of popular culture. Lee Majors was an iconic figure from the area, and Bren caught up with him in episodes of The Fall Guy. The look and feel of US shows from the 70s and 80s fills him with very happy nostalgic feelings, so he's looking forward to reliving some of that in this video. Well, hopefully Bren, now this video is done, it's managed to hit that nostalgia spot for you. If you remember this TV show, whether you want to say how much you loved it or that you thought it was a pile of old junk, pop your thoughts in the comment section and we can reminisce about it there. And if you want to be featured in a future Retrospectives video, follow me on my various social media platforms where I'll be asking for your comments whenever I'm working on something new. All the links are in the video description. So we're going to finish up now with a quick supercut of some of Steve Austin's best Bionic moments. But first I'd like to thank everyone who shared their comments, to thank you for liking and subscribing, and of course to thank you all for watching Retrospectives.
What is it, Henry?
Expect I'll be needing a new pair of glasses, Martha. Beginning to see funny things.